Kogi West Senator Dino Melaye has launched a scathing attack on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, accusing it of reckless borrowing and spending. Melaye made the allegation on our nightly news program Arise Prime Time, stating that despite securing billions of dollars in loans, the government's actions have led to massive hunger across the country. Melaye also questioned the government's claim of increased revenue generation, asking why more loans are necessary in the country's finances if the country's finances were improving. He went on to suggest that the government's financial recklessness could reach a point where it would be forced to seek loans from private financial technology companies like OPay
and curb wastages. Government is one of the most reckless governments in the history of this country.
How do you mean?
The president who said he wanted to come and curb wastages bought a yacht. That yacht that the president bought has never been to the perimeter, territorial area of Nigeria. Of austerity, Paris. And what do we need a yacht for? In a time of austerity, in a time of pervasive hunger like this? The president also, within a few months in office, bought a presidential jet that cost Nigeria billions.
No, he said it was a gift.
I'm telling you that it was purchased. Gift by who? Gift has to be declared. And they called it a gift because the money used in the purchase of that aircraft was not appropriated by the National Assembly. That is why it was tagged a gift. Then again, since Tafawa Balewa, Azikiwe, up down to Buhari, every president and prime minister in this country used Mercedes-Benz S-Class as their official vehicle. The president is using a bomb jammer Mercedes-Benz, the same type that Trump is using in America. And you say you want to curb wastages? The same president. In the 8th Senate, the budget of the National Assembly was 150 billion. From 150 billion, today the president have increased the budget of the National Assembly to over 370 billion. I can catalog all this. Bought a yacht, bought a Cadillac, bought an aircraft, increased the money of the National Assembly, and I've borrowed like no other president in history. If you are making more money, then why are you borrowing? Yeah, and we will not be surprised if the president start borrowing from OPay and Moniepoint very soon.
OPay and Moniepoint. When you say leave our can you ride and POS agent money alone? Because obviously many of them use OPay. Plenty of people use OPay, but please, they said the president leave our OPay alone. Let me take this tweet from Cole 5, who wrote, I believe, on Instagram. She wrote, please, President, leave OPay out of this, you're borrowing. But to be honest, what exactly is Tinubu government borrowing for? Infrastructure, health sector, educational sector, electricity, mega city, poverty alleviation. What exactly? Because Dr. Martinez, that's what this guy is saying. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Very quickly, I think context should be important. Yeah. In this matter. Yeah. Senator Dino Melaye is a chieftain of the ADC, an opposition association or party, whatever label you may want to use. So you do not expect that he will praise the Tinubu administration. Yeah. And he's a very articulate, outspoken personality. So he's accusing the government of borrowing. Now let's look into the details. President Tinubu said, we have met revenue projections, we're making a lot of money from non-oil, and we are not borrowing from Nigerian banks, domestic borrowing. Now, in that regard, the administration was praised for freeing the space, the fiscal space, the financial space for private businesses in Nigeria. If government is not borrowing heavily from domestic banks, then businesses will have more space, more leg room for them to borrow. So that's why I'm surprised that Senator Melaye is talking about borrowing from Moniepoint and OPay. And I don't think that is the kind of money that the Nigerian government will be looking for in terms of capacity. The other claim that he made is about presidential yacht. He said President Tinubu has a yacht paid for by Nigerian taxpayers between Monaco and wherever that the president of Nigeria is using. That is not true. Now, when this issue of the yacht came up, it wasn't even the Tinubu administration that talked about yacht. It was the Buhari administration in the 2023 supplementary budget. And at that time, when the controversy came up and people were saying, why yacht for president and all that, the Nigerian Navy came forward and said, no, it was a vessel being used for naval operations that was named presidential yacht. It's not for President Tinubu, so it's not something that was purchased for luxury. But you know, in this country, in politics, you can bring up anything that is sensational. But I think that what I've provided can be fact-checked because it seems to be the empirical fact. It's the empirical fact on this particular issue. Maybe the Navy maybe they can contradict me, but that's what I mean.
What was the other thing? Finally,
the point made by Senator Melaye is accusing the government of reckless spending.
Yes.
Okay. Now, many Nigerians will say, well, there's a lot of spending. However, it's not borrowing that is the problem, as economists will say.
Yes.
It is what you do with the borrowing. Are you providing the infrastructure? Are you being productive? Is there, efficiency within the system? Now, on all of those points, about efficiency, about performance, then, of course, Senator Melaye will seem to be on terra firma to join other Nigerians in saying we expect better performance in terms of infrastructure, in terms of welfare, in terms of security.
You're right.
There are all those histrionic, theatrical points he was making about OPay, Moniepoint, presidential laws. I hope I've helped to provide the context.
Yes, well, we know that Dino Melaye loves the lavish lifestyle. I see him on the gram wearing those really nice shoes and all, so he will know good things.
Are you admiring him?
I mean, I like the pictures. Now, would you like a flag? I'm just kidding.
You didn't answer my question.
I am not.
Are you admiring
I am
him?
not. I've seen him on Instagram. Can I say that? But he loves the lavish lifestyle. He said Tinubu was riding the same Mercedes as Trump. I don't think I've seen it, but I've seen Tinubu's Escalade. You have seen it, right? And I think we played that on. But wait, before I come to that, because I know that you want to say, Dr. Abati will not let me rest. Free OG. Well, in another development, because he also talked about Tajuddin Abbas during that interview, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, has clarified reports that he condemned the Tinubu administration's borrowing during a presentation at the West Africa Association of Public Accounts Committee's conference on Monday. The Speaker, who was represented by Julius Ihobere, revealed alarming statistics, noting that Nigeria's public debt to GDP ratio currently stands at around 52%, which is significantly above the statutory ceiling of 40%. He also expressed concern as Nigeria's total public debt has now soared to a staggering 149 trillion naira. While in a swift rebuttal, the Speaker's special advisor on new media clarified that while the Speaker is concerned about the country's rising debt, he does not believe all borrowing is bad. Instead, he views public debt as a potential tool for growth, provided it is managed prudently. Now, let me take Olalekan's tweet. They wrote on X, the real problem isn't public debt itself. It's the absence of accountability and transparency in how Nigeria's leaders manage public funds. Over the years, billions have been borrowed, from the $3.4 billion IMF loan during COVID-19 to billions from the World Bank and China Exim Bank for power, rail, and road projects. Yet, ordinary Nigerians are asking, where are the lights? Where are the jobs? Where are the impact on daily life? It is hypocrisy to praise debt as a ladder to growth while ignoring that most of our past loans have only enriched a few. I particularly picked that tweet, and I really think that, we were quite apt in most of those comments. In the meantime, Tajuddin Abbas's aide on new media says his main message was a call for stronger parliamentary oversight and accountability. He also stressed that lawmakers have a constitutional duty to ensure that borrowed funds are used transparently for tangible developments. As I highlighted, roads, schools, and hospitals. He also praised Tinubu's administration for its efforts to increase non-oil revenue, which he says is helping to reduce the country's reliance on borrowing. And I'll take another tweet before I come to you, Ayo. Tolu wrote on X, borrowing is not the real issue. Every nation borrows, which is a fact. The real question is, what are we using the money for? Borrow, but let it go into, again, I want to highlight it more, roads, jobs, things that grow the economy, not waste and consumption.
Absolutely, spot on. Some of the biggest countries in the world that have a high a debt to GDP ratio include Japan, include Singapore, include the United States of America. They are one of the highest in the world according to rankings. And the difference between countries like that and Nigeria is that we see the evidence of what borrowing is for. Case in point, when the Tinubu administration came into power, remember the World Bank loan in order to mitigate or provide a safety net for the most vulnerable Nigerians who would be most impacted following the two major economic reforms he introduced, the removal of fuel subsidy and the floating of the naira. The issue a lot of times is that the people do not see or feel the impact of the borrowing.
That's the main concern.
Great points around road construction, great points around the healthcare. It's on this very table we talk about the deplorable state of healthcare in Nigeria. It's on this table we talk about the deplorable state of education and the state of our classrooms and infrastructure development in Nigeria. And so what happens is that we see borrowing high, our debt to GDP ratio is going higher, about 40 to 50% currently, yet we still have high levels of people feeling the impact of the reforms that he's talked about. Then we see a lot of servicing of loans or a lot of servicing focusing on recurrent projects, no capital projects, no project that would in turn make money for the nation, which is a critical issue that we currently have. And so what we are calling on, and I do think that Honorable Abbas made a very salient point in his address, whether through his main point or through the clarification, whereby the importance of oversight functions by the National Assembly was emphasized.
Right.
When the president has to secure a loan, he needs approval from the Assembly. Unfortunately, when they do give this approval, it's just signature and leave it. There's no going back to check that what the money was asked for or intended for was actually used. It's just very simple. Nigerians understand the need to borrow because we need revenue, even though they've said that they've done better with their revenue generation. But what do they do with the money that is borrowed? That is a conversation that we're asking. And where do these loans come from? How do we service the loans?
If I could comment on both stories really quickly and then we move to the next
I think the formative word here was what I asked Paul Alaji about, which is the cost-benefit ratio. And I think until Nigeria has a threshold at which it calculates a cost-benefit ratio, what is the cost of doing a project? What is the cost to us, borrowing plus interest? And what is the benefit of the project? So will the project be able to pay back the cost accrued to it? If you are to put most project parameters that this government borrows for, it does not pass the cost-benefit ratio reflection. It passes the sentiment-benefit reflection threshold. So why do government do projects in this country? Because of the region that gives me the largest votes. And that's why you see politicians arguing that, oh, you've done more projects in Lagos compared to the Southeast and all of that. Anybody that comes to power says, how can I do more projects in my region to be able to suit my people's interest, rather than the cost-benefit analysis? So most of the projects the government claims they are doing, have they ever looked at the cost-benefit analysis? If you do not solve that problem, then you will waste the money you are borrowing. A great instance in point is the case of COVID. We drew down 30 trillion in ways and means for COVID. We said we were used to buy infrastructure in isolation centers. Till today, where are the ventilators we bought? That 30 trillion, if was properly spent, will have been able to revolutionize the healthcare sector, even if it's the primary healthcare sector. But today, we've squandered that money. That debt is still off our books. That's why we've securitized it, and we've achieved nothing. And that's the problem of Nigeria. Today, over 15%, over 80% of the primary healthcare centers in the country are still in the deplorable states. But guess what? We had the infrastructure capital, the money, 30 trillion during COVID, to be able to fix the healthcare sector, but we did nothing. So if we don't answer the question of cost-benefit ratio, we'll start having this argument back and forth. And please, with due respect, Dino Melaye should stop all these theatrics. If you want to criticize, criticize. Because if you want to look, last week he was reported in the news he was having back and forth with the tax authorities. Has he sorted that out?
I don't know. Ask me about Dino.
No, it was reported in the news. I don't know if he sorted that out. So if you want to criticize, criticize, please.
But like Dr. Abati has said, the president is not going to go and borrow money from OPay. But of course, he was only joking. He was really only joking. Well, in another development, tensions were high in Lagos after a massive protest erupted this weekend, leading to the closure of the Third Mainland Bridge. Residents from the Oroshoking area took to the streets to protest the demolition of their homes by a Lagos state government enforcement team. The protesters, who blocked the inward lane of the bridge, claimed that their houses were being demolished without sufficient notice or compensation. Many residents stated they were left homeless after the sudden action, which targeted what the government described as unapproved buildings along the Iana-Oroshoki coastal line. And we did see this video. I know that during the protest, the residents confronted Lagos Commissioner of Police, Moshid Jimo, and vowed not to leave the bridge until, the demolition equipment was removed from their community. Of course, the protest eventually, subsided after security operatives were deployed to restore order. We know that as of now, I've reached out to some people in the Lagos state government. There's not been an official statement regarding the protests or even the demolitions. Dr. Abati, real quick.
Okay, shelter. Housing, otherwise called, is one of the major things on the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs. People want a place to live. So it's very important to them, whether it's land or it is shelter itself. And so it's not surprising that persons whose houses are being demolished for, reasons that the government sees on a lack of approval will be, emotional, and they will protest. Now, but all of these things, follow a process. For you to buy land, for you to build a house, there must be an approval process. Now, it's not always the builders who have the problem. Sometimes government bureaucracy is an obstacle.
Yes.
And so some of these people, they will go and build in unapproved locations, they will with unapproved plans, with quacks. But you then ask the question, where was the government? Before somebody will go and build on an approved space, where was the government? There is a department of government called Urban and Physical Planning. Yeah. They will not act. Right. They will wait till the house has been completed, and then they will come, they will say they want to demolish. However, if you want to demolish, there is also process, there is procedure. Stakeholder engagement. The people are supposed to be engaged, and then where necessary, you engage them with a human face. you pay compensation. You explain to them. Now, in the case of these people who are built along what they call the Oronshoki coastal line, right? Okay, maybe that stretch. You know, it's a space where people are not supposed to build. Now, again, I ask, where was the government? And even if you are going to evacuate them, if you are going to demolish their buildings, you engage them. Housing remains a major problem in Lagos and elsewhere, despite the effort of government. So some people will come together, they will try to erect a place where they can live. And then you just go without notice. These protesters are saying, without engagement. Saying, and then you go and demolish their houses. Really? And yet in this same Lagos, I interviewed some people, I think they are from Magodo Phase 2. There is a section in that Magodo Phase 2 estate that the Landlords Association said, look, this place is not for development. So determined by even the Lagos State government. The same Lagos State government officials gave approval for some people to go and erect buildings. That is even a very clear case that was brought to television. So you see a lot in terms of double standards. You see a lot in terms of class hierarchy in the administration of these policies, no matter how well intentioned. I think Governor Sanwo-Olu should look into this matter of the people in the Oronshoki coastal area and try to see how the government can meet them halfway and treat them in a humanely possible manner as possible. Well said, and not to be seen to be terrorizing them and punishing them, whatever the omissions may have been.
All right, well said, Dr. That's why I thought it was important to highlight this story for the people of Oronshoki to, put some voice in that matter, because I'm still waiting for, an official statement from whoever it is that is in charge of that area, and hopefully we'll bring back that story to our viewers. But still in Lagos.
You don't have a landed property there.
No, I don't have Oronshoki. I have a Umukwata, my village, but I still love Lagos,
To add to this story, I think it's also an important thing to sound a note of warning to people who want to get land. Make sure you go through due process, get your documents right, and you're not building illegally.
But what is the due process also sometimes can be difficult to go through. That's what
I agree with that. I'm just saying that on the other side, because sometimes we see this, the people are complicit. Then when the government wants to carry out it, right, they'll now come out and cry. So I just want to say, going forward, now that we see, because there were demolitions in Maryland and other parts.
Yes, I also have another story. Hopefully I'll bring that. I'll bring, there was a personal story I have of traders and family
losing their homes. So please,
let us need more clarity on this information, really. The people of Oronshoki have gone out on the Third Mainland Bridge. It's important for the Lagos State government to respond to their plight. While still in Lagos, a video posted on Facebook by journalist Deji Bademosi, who's also the founder of TV360, highlighting a dangerous open manhole along the airport road in Ikeja, caught the attention of the Lagos State government. In the video, Bademosi had created a billboard calling on Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu to fix the manhole before he takes any life.
There was a terrible accident here. Thank God no life was lost, but the accident was terrible. It's actually a surprise that this has been allowed like this for several months. I drive around here on a daily basis, so it's a surprise. I wouldn't know what happened to the manhole, the cover now, if it was stolen, but no matter what, you would expect that the authorities ought to have come here to fix this. We've done a series of reports now calling the attention of the state government to this situation, but so far there's been no response. And so I decided to erect this sign, hoping that the governor would see this, and if the governor doesn't see this, if he doesn't drive around this area, at least some of his aides who would drive around this area would see this and then try to fix this manhole. It's a disgrace for a mega city like Lagos.
All right, citizen action there. Well, within 24 hours after making that video, the Lagos State government sent officials to cover the hole. The officials walked through the night to ensure that the manhole was covered, and Badmus was there to report the progress.
The manhole has now been covered. Job well done. From what I can see, that's the manhole over there. It's been covered. This is the kind of response we want to see. So going forward, we expect that, all the open manholes across the city will be fixed. Thank God that the Lagos State government has responded in this case. So well done, and kudos to the Lagos State government, kudos to the Lagos State governor, and to men and officials of the Lagos State Public Works Corporation. Well done.
Well done, and I love this sort of story. I thought it was so important to highlight the sort of response we got from the Lagos State government regarding that manhole, and what we have seen here demonstrate how citizens' actions can prompt a positive response from the government. We did the same thing where the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, went out there, and it's great to see this sort of response, and we want to encourage it. And as much as we hail the governor for doing this, we want to hear something about the. I believe I'm getting some messages from the Lagos State government here saying something about they will send proof about what really transpired in Oronshoki as well. Well, staying in Lagos, we also.
Oh my God, Dino Melaye. Anyways, another thing to say, Dino Melaye, one key person. The thing is, what is Tinubu doing with more money? Borrowing more money. Doing what? We don't know. That's the problem. Borrowing is not a problem. What do you do after borrowing? That's the problem. We are not seeing the change. Nigerians are not, there's no impact of this more money we borrow so far. We're not feeling the impact of good governance, of money, more money being borrowed, injecting into our economy. We're not seeing it. Nothing is working. So what is it? Anyways, they said it too. Very soon. It's Tinubu, because he does not have shame. Tinubu is shameless, so he can borrow money from anywhere. He doesn't care. So, what do you think? You see, this country, to an extent now, Abbas Tajuddin is asking question that, hey, more money have been borrowed so far. Tajuddin, Speaker of House of Reps, what are you doing with this money? What every time you bring money, you bring bill, let's approve it. Approve waiting. What are we doing with all this money being approved so far? Nigerians are not saying it. They are hungry. Nigeria is not capital, hunger, this thing, capital in the world. So, anyways, it is well. So, what do you think? Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be your guy. Run out for me now, please.